I hope सब मन लगा के पढ़ाई कर रहे हो. Exams are practically right around the corner, right? So we really need to be razor sharp with our prep right now. Welcome back to this high-yield explainer. Seriously, grab a pen and paper or your tablet, whatever you use, because today we're taking a super fascinating, structured look at the classification of Phylum Cnidaria. We're going to decode the three major classes you absolutely 100% need to know.
Okay, let's dive into this. So last time we looked at the pore bearers, right? The sponges. But today we're literally moving a massive step up the evolutionary ladder. We're leaving those simple sponges in the dust and diving headfirst into the incredibly beautiful, but let's be real, kind of dangerous world of stinging cell animals. We're going from basic pores to organisms armed with highly specialized stinging cells. We're talking the true mind-blowing complexity of jellyfish, sea anemones, and corals.
Here's our quick roadmap for this session. First, we'll meet the stinging animals in general. Then we'll tackle the epic showdown of Polyp versus Medusa. After that, we'll break down the big three: class Hydrozoa, class Scyphozoa, and class Anthozoa. And to wrap it all up, we're going to build what I call the Magic Keys summary. It's going to help you effortlessly lock all of this into your memory for the exams. Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1, Meet the Stinging Animals. To truly get Cnidaria, we really have to look at how they totally upgraded the blueprint of life compared to what we saw back in Phylum Porifera. They're significantly more advanced, mostly because they've actually achieved a tissue level of organization rather than just bumping around as a loose collection of cells. So, the crucial point is how they're physically built. While the Porifera we studied before were, mostly asymmetrical blobs, Cnidians usually rock this beautiful radial symmetry. Basically, as you can see, this means you can divide the organism into identical perfect halves through literally any central plane. Think of it exactly like a bicycle wheel. No matter where you slice it straight through the center hub, those two halves are going to perfectly mirror each other. It's a massive, massive evolutionary leap in structural design.
Which brings us to Section 2, Polyp versus Medusa. This structural design thing, it brings us to the single most important concept of this whole explainer. The entire tripartite taxonomy, that's the three-part classification system you gotta memorize, is based entirely on the nature of their gastrovascular cavity and the dominance of these two wildly competing body forms. Honestly, if you can just clearly picture these two distinct shapes in your head, the rest of the taxonomic breakdown is going to make perfect logical sense. On one side, you've got the polyp. It's fixed in place, completely anchored down, and rocks this sort of tube-like body form. Then, on the flip side, we have the medusa. This is your classic free-swimming, umbrella-like body form that just drifts along through the ocean currents. Pretty much everything we talk about from here on out completely depends on which of these two forms is the boss of the organism's life cycle. Moving right along to Section 3, Class Hydrozoa. Now, hydro obviously means water, and that actually gives us a really great starting point for understanding the specific nitty-gritty traits examiners are definitely going to be hunting for on your tests. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that in this class, you'll often find both the polyp and medusa stages kind of balancing out the life cycle. But, and this is a huge but, there's a classic exception you absolutely must remember: Hydra. Hydra actually only has the polyp stage. Crazy, right? Another key example is Obelia, which shows this really beautiful alternation of generations between the two forms. Oh, and for a guaranteed extra mark on your exam, write this down. Remember this comparative callback. Their mesoglea is completely non-cellular. That is a direct, stark contrast to that gelatinous matrix we studied in sponges. Okay, Section 4, Class Scyphozoa. Whenever you close your eyes and picture a classic floating sea creature with those long, trailing tentacles, you're almost certainly picturing a member of this specific class. Yeah, these are what biologists call the true jellyfish. In class Scyphozoa, that medusa stage is heavily, heavily dominant. Basically, if you spot an umbrella-shaped creature just freely floating out in the open sea, it's highly likely a Scyphozoan. The absolute most common example, and seriously, the one you should practice drawing for your diagrams, is Aurelia. It's also super important to note that these guys are strictly marine organisms, which, if you think about it, draws a really nice, neat parallel back to those hexactinellid sponges we discussed in our previous session. Let's hit Section 5, Class Anthozoa. So the word antho literally translates to flower in ancient Greek, and that perfectly explains why these organisms are famously known as the beautiful flower animals of the sea. And this brilliantly illustrates how evolutionary adaptations can go on to create entire sprawling ecosystems.
I mean, anthozoans look exactly like beautiful underwater plants, and they include your incredibly colorful sea anemones and corals. But here is the trick, the thing they'll try to catch you on in the exam. In this class, there is absolutely zero Medusa stage. None. They are strictly polyps. Furthermore, a lot of these anthozoans secrete this super hard skeleton made of calcium carbonate. That should instantly remind you of the calcium carbonate endoskeleton we saw in the Calcarea class of sponges, right? It's just a wonderful evolutionary parallel. And ultimately, it's this exact hard skeleton that is literally responsible for forming those massive, awe-inspiring coral reefs in our oceans today. Finally, Section 6, the Magic Key Summary. Okay, we've covered the 3 classes, we've dug into their structural secrets, and we've nailed down their key examples. Now, let's consolidate everything you've just learned into the ultimate study tool. Let's see how this all builds together. Here is your magic key. Seriously, take a screenshot of this table right now if you need to. It's so simple. If the polyp is dominant, or if both stages exist, boom, it's Hydrozoa. Think Hydra and Obelia. If the Medusa is the big boss of the life cycle, it's Scyphozoa. Those are your true jellyfish like Aurelia. And if it's a fixed flower-like polyp with absolutely zero Medusa stage, that's Anthozoa, the home of your sea anemones and corals. Organizing the information this way in your head ensures you will never ever confuse the 3 on test day.
I do want to leave you with a massive, massive piece of advice for when you're actually sitting there in that exam hall. Always, always remember to draw a quick, small diagram of a jellyfish and a sea anemone right next to your notes. I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference to the examiner. Those visuals instantly prove that you truly understand the core structural differences between the Medusa and the polyp. And hey, on a personal note, while you're putting in these crazy long study hours, please make sure you're actually taking care of your nutrition and keeping up a healthy sleep cycle. Seriously, your brain needs solid fuel and good rest to lock all of this complex taxonomy in.
All right, before we totally wrap up this explainer, I want you to chew on this question for a second. Based on everything we've literally just covered, which class of Cnidarians do you think is directly responsible for building the Great Barrier Reef? Drop your best guess in the comments. Honestly, thinking through these real-world applications is absolutely the best way to pressure test your memory. Anyway, we'll be doing a deep dive into exactly how these incredible animals sting in our upcoming explainer on Nematest, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for joining me today. Study hard and stay blessed.